Today, we'll talk about one of my recent crazy trades. We'll talk about everything: stop loss hunts, liquidity pools, smart money concepts, order blocks, optimal trade entry. Everybody talks about trading strategies, but nobody talks about how to be a better trader. Today will be the day you'll learn the secrets of pro traders: stop loss positioning, multi-level targets. We have so much to cover. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course, all about price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. With this video, you'll learn the secrets of successful traders. If you are looking for a structured table of contents, I set it up for you. You can find it on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. It is important to watch videos in order to fully understand everything. Okay, people, let's see what is happening with Bitcoin. After a massive 50% rally, Bitcoin started to cool off a bit. It especially started to react to these specific imbalances and its main breaker block price level. You can see how many wicks are happening in these areas, basically meaning that an extreme amount of stop loss hunts going on in lower time frames. When we drop to 1 hour time frame, we can see more clear price action happening. I was watching this specific price range right under the imbalance and the breaker block. As I said before, price loves to range or accumulate orders around significant price levels, such as order blocks, breaker blocks, or fair value gaps. These equal highs were absolutely clear right below the imbalance. Just go and watch my previous video and remember what I said. Equal highs and lows love to form around imbalances. So, what is happening here? Let me explain one more time. Price consolidates and accumulates orders right before the high time frame key point, which mostly creates relatively equal highs or lows. And price hunts those stop losses and creates the most common pattern in the world: the power of three: accumulation phase, manipulation phase, and finally the expansion phase. What is happening here looks extremely clear, I believe. Let's see the 15-minute chart. 15 minutes is probably the most important time frame for day traders and scalpers. You can find the clearest targets in this time frame. As I tweeted this chart before the real action, I watched this range and specific price levels for possible entries and targets. Let us see what we had here. Remember what I said before. Check the liquidity. All trading is based on one thing: liquidity. Notice these equal lows right at this point. And go below again and notice another set of equal lows, going way below other equal lows. Remember, price is a rubber ball that keeps bouncing between hunted liquidity and forming liquidity. Then you go to the next phase, finding imbalances. The most significant fresh imbalance on this chart was the one here. And there was little imbalance way below. However, if imbalances are too little, they are mostly insignificant. So, what have we learned up until now? Step 1. Find liquidity and organize them as hunted or forming. Step 2. Find imbalances and check the distance to imbalance. Now we are good to go. Okay, now we are in the 1-minute chart. As you can see, I have extended all the 15-minute targets to the right and labeled them as 15 minutes. Now before we start, what was really special about this day? It was the FOMC day, basically the most powerful central bank in the world, which controls the flow of United States dollars, was going to set interest rates and make a statement for the future decisions. FOMC and inflation are the most powerful two economic data in the world. The moment these data are released, charts generally go crazy, up and down. Normally, you should avoid trading FOMC days or wait for a good amount of time for charts to settle and form clear trading setups. So I did that. I let it do what it does, hunt the liquidity and form me a clear setup. First, I'm sitting and identifying the further liquidity before FOMC statement, which was going to be released at 2 p.m. Notice this inside liquidity pool forming inside the daily imbalance. So the moment data was released, price instantly wicked above, clearing all the stop losses above in a single second. Later on, the price instantly moved below and cleared these tiny equal lows. It's kind of freaky to watch. What is this W pattern? Basically a double bottom. You do nothing at this point. No rush or anything. It is so dangerous that it can take your stop losses any second. Let it do its craziness for a while and quietly, patiently watch the charts. Here later on you can notice this micro equal high zone right below the imbalance. It is a micro inducement. In my opinion, this was the first moment of possible entry. In a normal day, I could have considered taking an entry here. But today, I just waited for all this FOMC craziness to settle. Later on, the price breaks downwards. But this is not a normal slow break. It is an instant power break. I call it a high quality break. You can call it displacement. What I like here is simple, this mega imbalance. Right top of the imbalance, you can notice the IC, indecision candlestick, basically the order block. And there is that, very tiny imbalance, but in my opinion, it was quite insignificant. I would like to talk about this movement here. The very sharp and big sudden move and very slow pullback filled the imbalance and reached a critical entry point. These are my signature entries, which I love. From now on, also drawing your optimal trade entry tool will help you a lot. Finding the most optimal entry zone which collides with order block and fulfillment of the imbalance. This was an excellent trade, a textbook trade. Let's talk about targets and stop losses. My main TP was the 15-minute imbalance. I closed most of the position. However, I still kept some for the possible runners, basically the equal lows awaiting at the bottom. This was basically high profit sniper scalping. I usually close the trades at 2 or 3R. This was almost a 5R plus runner trade. Now, why did I place the stop loss here? My main reason was simple. Price already filled the imbalance here and hunted the micro liquidity. It got all the fuel needed to go down. What also happens is a very basic micro power of 3. I will leave it to you to explore more. Now, what is all this? What is the setup? This is actually my very classic entry setup. Price hunts the stop losses above, ideally with a swing failure pattern, then instantly breaks the opposite side with very high quality breaks, which means giant candlesticks with imbalances. Then finally, the price pulls back and fills the imbalances to support resistance flip area. Then we search for entries. That's it. Okay folks, this is it. Very simple yet quite effective price action trading plan. A trading strategy for scalpers and day traders. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.